This video, ladies and gentlemen, is sponsored by Ineba. Myself and Ineba have partnered for this month's content here on the channel. But what is Ineba, ladies and gentlemen? Ineba is a gaming marketplace with over 40,000 digital products. Whether you are a PC gamer, Steam gamer, console gamers like Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, you want to grab these popular newer games or even older games at great prices, why not? I myself had bought many games, many gift cards. Actually, the one for the Dark Deception book, I actually bought gift card from Ineba for the book. I've bought Life is Strange from this. If you are looking for Silent Hill 2 remake, y'all should take a look at this one because it's got great deals. You already know. If I don't use it, I don't promote it. It's got all the needs for y'all. Get Ineba. Links will be in the description. Check it out. Now back to the video. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy SmackNPie here, and welcome to Lost Records Bloom and Rage from the developers Don't Nod, the developers of OG, Life is Strange 1 and 2. Their brand new game Tape 1 just dropped today, and I was fortunate enough to be given a key by Don't Nod for this game. My relationship with Don't Nod have been great, ever since after the Life is Strange 2. I've played Twin Mirror, Tell Me Why, Vanisher's Ghosts of New Eden, which I still think is probably their best game to date, UCN, and now Lost Records. So I've been really looking forward to it as a massive Life is Strange fan. When I say massive, I'm a really big Life is Strange fan. I think the quality of the Life is Strange games dipped after Life is Strange 2, but that is a topic for a separate video. So I've finished Lost Records like a couple days ago at this point, and by the time you'll be watching this video, and I've had some time to gather my thoughts, collect my thoughts, and talk about the things I want to talk about. Because with the reception of Life is Strange Double Exposure, I was really excited for Lost Records, because from the trailers and marketing and promotional materials that I've seen, or I've had seen, I was really loving the vibe and everything of this game. So I've played, and there are a lot of things I want to talk about. So I've divided those points into sections. If there are no time steps, I would like to apologize. Do remind me. If there are, you can skip past to the one that you wanna hear my thoughts on. I want to start off with the technical side of things, because this is a massive improvement from their previous games, right? When we do talk about Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden, which is technically a very solid and polished game, I should say. Like, even before the final product, the key that they gave me and the one that I played in there were barely few bugs in there. And other than that, it was solid, the animation and everything. So technically, I was really looking forward to this, and it's a step up in many ways, but I can also see some of the things that need improvement. One thing that is consistent throughout all the Don't Nod games, and that is a concern to me personally, that is the facial animation, specifically the lip syncing with the voice actors. Because if you do compare it with Deck 9, because that's, just for the comparison's sake, if you do look at Deck 9's True Colors or Deck 9's Expanse or Deck 9's Double Exposure, the recent one, I hope that in the final product that is fixed to an extent, but there are certain scenes where it is fixed. But most of the games I've seen, it has those Life is Strange 1 kind of animation where the lips just move. They just move up and down or left, right, or something like that. They don't actually physically fit. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, really massive upgrade in a lot of things. The graphics, the best graphics they've had ever in any of their Don't Nod games. Animation-wise, smooth, right? With the exception of facial animation that I just talked about. And because there's a lot of talking. There's a ton of talking. 99% of the game is just talking, right? And so you will be seeing a lot of faces of these characters. Some characters more than the others. And so they chose this kind of a CD Projekt Red kind of route. If you ever played their Witcher or their Cyberpunk specifically, I was getting some Cyberpunk vibes from the way the characters would talk to you. So you would lock in, right? You would lock in with these characters. These characters will lock in with you as well. So they have these constant animation and motions, so they don't feel too out of place, but sometimes it could feel a bit awkward, a bit weird. Like, what are you talking about? Why do you keep looking at me? They do look away sometime. I'll be playing some of the footage non-spoilery. Of course, you don't have to worry about spoilers. I should have said that in the beginning, but minor spoilers here and there, but major story spoilers, I'll just keep it to the end of this video. So yeah, that is a big point for me that I've seen a massive tick in that department. Surprisingly, very less gameplay compared to some other Don't Not titles. Of course, if you go from Banishes Ghosts of New Eden to this, like, the gameplay for you would be completely non-existent, because that game, in collaboration with Focus Entertainment, most of your time, like I said, will be spent in talking with other characters and your camcorder, which is the big deal, so you can film around. Okay, so if you ever played Outlast, basically you have the camcorder, and whenever you are outside or even in locations where you are allowed to use the camcorder, you can make your own memoirs or like small clips or documentaries, and you can literally film anything that is filmable. It would have a rectangle or a square box that'll tell you, okay, you can record this. Out of, like, if you are outside, you can film animals, birds, deers, or you can film the characters that you are walking with or you're having a good time with. Character spotlights in there. So there's a lot to do in that regard, but if you combine all of it, again, very surprised with the amount of, less gameplay compared to some other titles. There are choices and there are ways they tell you how these will differ and how your choices are affecting your relationships with characters. And the whole motto of this game before release was, you see the present, and then at the same time you're affecting the past as well. And while it sounds good, I mean, the characters, they say, okay, listen, right? The characters, they be talking about their past, like, in certain things that they did. For example, I'm just giving you an example. It's not a major spoilery thing. Let's say in the past, a character asked you a question and you had like 3 options. In the present, the characters will say, hey, what did you choose? I forgot. And then you go back and choose, and they're like, oh, this is what you chose. I mean, for me personally, that's not something revolutionary in my humble personal opinion. I know I'm a little bit critical, but I haven't even got to the story portion yet. But yeah, I think if we just look at technical side, there are a lot of things that have been improved, but there are a lot of things that are still hold this back, and that is your typical Don't Not stuff. I really hope that they do fix some of those things, but soundtrack, phenomenal. Probably one of the best ever they've had. Soundtrack, vibes are completely phenomenal. They're there. And before we move on, it 100% makes sense for PlayStation to be making a deal for this game to be on PS Plus, because this fits the PlayStation audience. It definitely fits that. It is definitely a cozy, chill type of game, because for like 90% of the story, it's mostly just chill stuff, like friends just hanging around, talking stuff, talking mad about each other, and other stuff as well. There will be some story beats that I'll mention at the end of this video when we do get to the spoilers, but villain, non-existent in this, at least in tape 1. They do talk about it at the end, which we will talk about, so most of this is just setup. It's so much setup, it might take you out, it might take some people out in that regards, because there's just a lot of setting up things, setting up characters, their characteristics, setting up events for eventual, things that will lead up, and it will all make sense. But for the most part, because I've played these games before, Squid Game Season 2, meme here, for me, I understand these type of things, but even for me as a massive Life is Strange fan and as a massive Don't Not fan, I still feel like this game could have brushed down some of the plots, could have made the experience a little more tighter, and we could have gotten to the main plot of the game a little quicker. But I do understand from a developer's perspective why they would choose to do some of those things. The content is there, and it is a lot if you explore a lot. Like, there's a lot of things, a lot of dialogue that if you click on every certain thing, every possibility, the content-wise, they can say that this is a lot of content. There are a lot of branching options or branching dialogues that you can unlock, which will help you tie the lore a little bit better, which will give you an inclination of where the story is leading towards. But if we pull it all back and we look at the massive big plot of why, and this is from the synopsis, not a spoiler, like why, what kind of promise did these friends made, and why did they leave each other for so many years, and why they're coming back just now? What is it all about? I think to get to that point, it does make sense for them to set up these characters, how they became friends. But I'm just going to say one point here. A lot of it felt like checklist. And I'm afraid that might also take out people. Please read between my lines. We were just getting through the checklist of, okay, this, and that, rather than actually telling stories from character point of views, individual point of views, or even group point of views. You'll know what I mean when I start talking about the story. So overall, I think I don't have much to say. I'm not going to say this is probably Donut's best game because I still think that's Banisher's in collaboration with Focus Entertainment. After Life is Strange 1, of course, and 2. But I'm also not going to say it's their weakest because there are weaker games there. Like Tell Me Why and Twin Mirror, they were probably the weakers of them. Joseon is a great game if you focus on gameplay of it. I don't know, I've always visioned Don't Nod to break this barrier of every time whenever we talk about Don't Nod, it's always the developer of Life is Strange, the developers of Life is Strange. I just want them to break out of that so that their recent game, we can say the next time, developers of their recent game, which would be Lost Records and whatnot. So I hope that happens. I hope the PlayStation does strike a deal with Don't Nod moving forward because their games, Don't Nod games, would fit on PlayStation platform and would help with the marketing boost and whatnot. So a little bit disappointed in terms of the plot, but I do understand it is from a perspective of setting things up for tape number 2, which is actually a few months far from now. It's actually in April. So if you do get the game now, you'll get the update in April. Same goes for PS Plus as well. I've always envisioned Don't Nod to go one step beyond, like Focus Entertainment's A Plague Tale. A Plague Tale is a perfect example of where I see Don't Nod moving forward because A Plague Tale, Asobo Studios in collaboration with Focus Entertainment, that game is super polished. The gameplay is there. It's not the revolutionary game. It is decent. It's just decent, right? But the story is phenomenal. That's what Don't Nod is trying to, aim for whenever we talk about these type of games. And the facial animations, the animation, technically, those games are very sound. Same goes for Deck Nine. Say whatever we want about Life is Double Exposure, but if you look at Expanse and True Colors, technically, those games are sound. Technically, Deck Nine is decent. I mean, sure, you can pick up a whole compilation of video where you see the bugs, what are you talking about? But I feel like Square Enix should have made a collaborative project with Life is Strange Double Exposure where technically Deck Nine would handle all the things and narratively Don't Nod would handle all the things. I would think it would have worked out better, but I don't know. Now, a little bit spoilery stuff. Not major, but minor spoilers for the story. Okay. So the way the story flows is that you play as one character named Swan, right? And you follow her story as they show, slowly but surely, how passionate she is for cameras, camcorders, making movies. Horror movies is her thing, right? She has a cat, which is kind of cool because they give you 3 options. Depending on the name, you get a different cat. I picked Shadow, so I got Shadow. If you pick a different name, you get a different cat. So that's kind of cool. By the way, I probably would have given this 10 out of 10 because you can pet the cat. So that's all I wanted. Here, I would also add that I think the game would have benefited from the way this is set up, both the story and the gameplay-wise, if we had followed each of their stories individually, like we had controlled each of these characters, then it would have made sense to really be controlling the narrative and plot of this story. As they get close to moving out from this city to Canada, unlike Life is Strange or other games, we actually don't get to see their families. We actually don't get to see them. We do hear them, but we only are fixed in Swan's, the main character's room, and a lot of things happen there. A lot of cutscenes happen there, recording things, recording nature, to actually finding friends. And I'm sorry, the way this whole thing's unpacked is funny. So you get this. They've actually shown this in the trailer. It's not a major spoiler or anything, but this is how things go chaotic, right? The Swan out here is recording this balloon. Right, this is like a must thing. You have to record this. Other things that you record are optional. This one, you have to record this balloon. So there's a fence right here, and it's a little bit hole in that fence, and you can see somebody on the other side of that fence just chilling, right? So you're recording this balloon, and then you hear, "Hey, creep!" And there's that Dylan, right? There's another character, right? So Swan alone, she's now being accused of being a creep, taking photos and videos of people just chilling, right? And so Dylan's boyfriend, Corey, comes in with a bike, and they make him out to be a creep as well. And he's like, "Oh, you fatso," because, the main character is like that. "You fatso, you creep, film me," and whatnot. They're trying to assert him, or at least trying to make us think, and these characters, that, hey, maybe he's a creep. Maybe he is, all right? Maybe he is, but we'll come back to this point in just a second. But then out of nowhere, to our left, there's an ice cream shop where 2 other characters were working. They just got closed, right? We had an interaction with them as well. They come in, and then Dylan's sister, Kat, she comes in to save the day for us, Swan, the main character. Now, we got a friend, 4 of us. I'm just going to throw a point here. Swan's cat voice actor makes sense. Okay, same goes for Autumn, same goes for Nora, but Cat, cat voice, and when you look at her face, it does not match at all, bro. She sounds way too old for her character. I mean, it makes sense. I'm just, don't take it seriously, bro. It's just a video game. I'm out here trying to make a review on a video game, bro. Don't take it seriously. Don't take it personally. But I don't know, it just bothered me throughout the whole game. Even at the last scene, which does revolve around her, it still bothered me to that. I'm like, this is not your voice. You don't look like that. You look way too young for that voice.
I got grounded, so I snuck out. Fell asleep behind the library.
But anyways, and that's where they become friends. So the story follows them. They find a spot in the town. They make it theirs. And the game goes back and forth a lot. And then the game sets up their bonding sessions, them talking to each other, learning about each other. And then we do cut back to the present where Swan is like, how many years old? And she comes back to this town. She still has that weird relationship with her mother, and she meets Autumn here in this bar, and then they start to reminiscent about their past. So they do go back and forth. Major events are just that fight happened, and then they learn about each other. They all, since they are, teenagers, it makes sense for them to be the way they are, right? I just wish they would have involved more Dylan and Corey. We probably should have had a scene where we would go to Dylan's house and Kat's house and then learn about her parents. The way they're just non-existent. And maybe that's the whole point of the lore. Maybe that's the whole point of the plot, where for these characters, only these characters exist. Anything outside is like a threat to them, right? And Swan is like, we can do a music video since she had a camcorder and whatnot. And that's how they give you the mechanic of, hey, you're actually making a music video, but the documentary as well behind the scenes. So that's why you can record any optional thing when you're with these characters or when you're not with these characters. You can make your own memoirs, or you can make your own documentary, or you can make a music video or documentary with these characters, which will definitely come into play. So skipping past everything, when we do get close to the ending, we start to notice something specifically with one character, Kat. Now this character in specific, I had my eye on her weird behavior from the get-go. I was like, wait a minute. The way she was behaving with her older sister Dylan and her boyfriend, older sister's boyfriend, not her own boyfriend, older sister's boyfriend Corey, they were being a little too easy on her personally. Like, the way she didn't get slapped up. Not that, listen, it would be wild if she had gotten slapped up, because that's wrong from all directions. But the way they were just setting it up is like, oh, she's probably gonna get slapped up by her sister. I was never gonna say Corey, bro. What are you talking about? Why would I say Corey slapping Kat? That would be horrible. But the way they're just setting every character out to be, kids be, you know how the teenagers be, the way they just over-exaggerate their siblings or their parents' behaviors. It might be true with their parents. I don't know. They might be abusive and whatnot. But there's a reason she was weird. And I was like, yo, she is weird. There were a lot of moments that were like, I was like, I'm okay, I'm locked in. Then they were like, I'm not locked in anymore. There were a lot of moments that I was like, I'm locked out, actually. I'm locked out because this just feels forced. There were a lot of things that just felt forced. There were, like I said in the beginning of this video, there were a lot of checklists. It felt like a lot of checklists. Like, we're just going through this checklist for the sake of the checklist, rather than actually these characters make sense for them to be choosing something like this in the first place. Again, read between my lines. Anyways, they get a package from we don't know who, right? And so we meet Autumn, we meet Nora after how many years? We don't know. After so many years, right? And we meet this, and we talk about this package that we received after all these years. And they talk about how everything that we've done after one singular event, we vowed and promised never to meet each other again. So why are we here now? Because of this package. So, of course, all these events were leading up to us learning what was the event. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can tell Kat mentally she was depressed. We all know that. All these characters were to a certain extent, but Kat was going through the most, right? And she was talking about all these crazy things. And in one of the games, Truth or Dare, Kat dares Swan to do Bloody Mary thing where, do that. And that's where kind of the chain reaction began. They do that. They also do a sacrifice thing where she writes this song for the group to sing, right? And for Swan to make a music video on that. And then they do a sacrifice. Nora and Kat does. I chickened out, because I will always do that. I will never get involved in that matter. Even if you don't believe in that stuff, I'm not taking risk, bro. Autumn does the same exact thing. Me and Autumn, we were like this throughout the game, bro. I was trying to get close to Autumn because I felt like he would be a better friend to Swan. Just because of her personality, I kind of connected with her a little bit more. Nora was wild. I would always be around her. And Kat was also wild, but she was on some weird behavior. But Autumn and myself, we backed out of that sacrificial thing. But Autumn at the end, she was like, okay, you know what? They do reveal why she backed out because, Kat was cutting her finger a little bit and then touching her cut finger's blood with Nora's cut to finger blood. That chisel is no joke, bro. I stay away from that. Autumn did at the end as well, but I was like, nah, bro. Probably the reason why I was still alive. Weird thing starts to happen. There's this abyss in the same place after a few nights. There's this giant abyss, a hole in the ground, the same place where they made the sacrifice. They actually made the sacrifice. They chanted the things, ladies and gentlemen. They chanted the things. Why did they do that? Even as kids, you don't do that. Bro, why did they do that? So they chanted things and that area became an abyss, purple abyss. And to continue this, they just took it lightly. This is a giant hole with purple color talking out to Kate and whatnot, and they're just taking it lightly. So after all this, right, they finally plan their quote-unquote concert. They bring out the speakers and microphones, and they connect. There's a small gameplay they added to, accommodate that. They might as well at this point just do a telltale kind of thing. Corey comes in. This is where I was like, okay, that's the reason why everything is like this. Corey keeps talking about Kat. We need to go. Your father's worried about you. Let's go. And of course, we don't know Corey too much at that point. So we already assumed the worst from the first interaction, right? And so he does let them do the concert. And while they were singing, he was smiling a little bit. It was kind of sort of like, okay, they're going in. So he's kind of sort of proud of her a little bit. But then all of a sudden, Dylan comes in, and that's where things go. This is the ending, by the way. She starts screaming, right? First of all, Dylan and Kat, they go back and forth. Dylan does tell her that, hey, I love you, and I would do anything for you. And she's like, no, no, no. They go back and forth, and then she goes on to this truck, and then she starts screaming. And her nose starts to bleed, ladies and gentlemen. Max from... No. This is Lost Regular Life is Strange. And she passes out. She faints. And that's where Dylan reveals.
Your fault! What? She's sick! Oh my god. Get it? Leukemia. No. She's running out of time. I knew you'd hurt her. I hate you.
She's got leukemia, ladies and gentlemen, and she doesn't have much time. That's why she was acting like all this time. That's why Dylan and Corey and Kat's parents, specifically the father, were so overprotective. They were coming from the top because she was going through that, and none of her friends knew. She never even gave any sign. In the middle of the game, I was like, hey, she is sick. She's 100% sick. What kind of sick? We don't know, but she's 100% sick. And that's exactly what happened, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why when we do get to the present, we only have Swan, Autumn, and Nora. There is no Kat. I was literally waiting minutes, hours to see the grown adult Kat. What happened in her life? What is she doing now? But she never came because that was the whole reveal. And that's where tape 1 ends. So it does get good at the end. Finally, a lot of things start to make sense. Like I've said, there's a lot of just build up. So with all that, the final few minutes being good, it's still, I feel like, a bit slower and could have brushed off a lot of points. And yeah, it does make me excited. Like it does make me go, I can't wait to see what happens in tape 2, but I'm not overjoyed, over excited, over anticipated and excited to see what happens in tape 2. I do hope we finally, now that we've set everything up and every character up, now we just continue the plot, continue the story. I think we've done enough build up. I think it is time for us to talk about Abyss, which is the whole major deal of this game. I think someone on Discord said it perfectly. First game, you have the power. The second game, you're trying to control the power secondhand. And the third game, you are the victim of the power. I think that fits it perfectly. So where do I put Lost Records on a rating scale? Nowhere, because tape 2 has not dropped yet. And once the tape 2 drops, then we'll see what happens. But at this point, I will say I'm mildly disappointed. There are things that are great. There are things that will lock you in. There are other things that are just there for the sake of being there. I feel like at this point Don't Nod feels like they have to do those things, but I don't know. There is potential there, which is why I keep saying that this is not my final verdict on the game, because Tape 2 could drastically change everything. And if that is the case, the plot moves and it is actually good. The plot just don't need to move. It needs to be good. So if it is good, I will come here and say, you just need to go through Tape 1's build-up, because Tape 2 gets better. We don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see. It does feel like if you played this, that there would be 3 chapters or 5 tapes at the minimum. But no, we're finishing this in Tape 2. So we'll see what happens, if it is worth it or not. With that being said, it is a big shout out to Don't Nod for the way they've handled this game technically. And technically, there's a lot of improvement. I see if they keep going down this route, I think there will come a time where they will maybe making some very technically sound, polished, and story-wise great games in the future. What are your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen? If you already played it, if not, will you play it? Will you check it out? Let me know down in the comments below. Shout out to Don't Nod for providing me the early access for this, and Black Soup for as well. Susu for more 100 I'll see you next one.